Hi, everybody. Please meet Ann and Becca Losch. Becca is a graduate of Richmond University in Virginia. She's now a successful senior executive in New York. She unfortunately suffered a head injury on the field years ago when she was in high school, and she's here to talk about it. And this is Ann, her awesome mom. Becca has a great family, great support system. They live close to me, as I write about in the book, and reached out to me, shortly after we launched the headgear. So I just want to start by saying thank you both for everything, for your support, and I appreciate you doing this, of course, as well. So good to see you. How's everybody doing? How's the family doing?
We're good. I'm back home during the pandemic, but we're good.
Okay. All right, good. So, let's start, when it comes to sports and lacrosse. I know you're a sports family and, you played from when you were young. For both of you, what do you think makes sports, especially, kids playing sports, so great, from your experience?
I can't remember a time when I wasn't playing sports. I was always on a field, on a court, running from one sport to the next. And ended up actually my favorite sport being lacrosse because it was a combination of basketball and soccer, between the positions and footwork. And I think the best part of sports growing up is just all of the life skills you learn. And I definitely did not realize that until I graduated college, that most of my skills, social skills, working skills, work ethic, everything goes back to what I learned on a field, practicing in games. So I think that's the biggest part about sports, and also all of the relationships you make. Some of my closest friends are still people I started playing soccer with or lacrosse with when we were in middle school.
Yep, no, it's that, and I always added that leadership skills, and certainly you're leader, and including when it comes to this and talking about it. So can you take us back to that day on the field? I know it was a while ago. How long ago was it?
It was April 2012, so it's been a while. I actually don't remember much from that day. The only thing that I remember is, and I was injured in a warm-up of a game. I was not injured during the game. It was a very basic shuttle drill, and I was hit in the back of the head with the ball, not the stick, which I think a lot of people, when they think of lacrosse concussions, they think about getting hit with the stick because someone's checking you, but the ball itself is a big part of it. And I got up, I played. No one really knew that I was hit except for my teammates who were on the field when I went down. So the only thing I remember is that I tried to take a charge during that game, and it was a terrible charge. Mm-hmm. My reaction time was just not there, and I thought to myself, like, wow, you're usually really good at this. What just happened? But besides that, I don't remember that day or a lot of the time right after that.
And for you, Ann, like what
that game was really interesting because I got there just as the game started. Typically, I'd be there a little earlier, but I wasn't. And Beck had coincidentally just returned from another injury, so it was her second full game back. And in the first game, she came back after her injury. She played a really good game. And then on this game, this play she's talking about was really poorly done. And I remember thinking, oh, wow, maybe she's not ready to be back yet. But I didn't know she had been hit. So she played the entire game, which we now know was a huge problem in terms of her injury and recovery. After the game, one of her teammates did come up to me and tell me that she had been hit. So we knew then, but she really didn't start to exhibit symptoms for a couple of days. So yeah, I mean, unfortunately, had I been there early, maybe things would have been different. If someone had seen it, maybe things would be different. But I think what's really key is that she was injured in a warm-up, not during, an intense game. And what we've learned a lot about her hit is that the velocity, it ricocheted off someone's stick. So when it ricochets, the velocity of the ball is very different, which also impacted her injury.
Yeah, we always, sorry.
It's interesting because I actually a couple of years ago ran into that friend in New York who told my mom I was hit, and I thanked her about it. And she told me that I, on the sidelines, mentioned to her, like, something is very off with me and I don't know what. And then when she asked if I was okay, I was like, yeah, I'm totally fine, and went back into the game. But I don't have any recollection of that happening.
And I think it's also important, Beck saying to a friend, yeah, I'm totally fine, wasn't, a lot of times people think, well, athletes don't want anyone to know, so they keep playing. That wasn't her saying, I'm totally fine, don't tell the coaches, I want to make sure I play. She didn't know she was hurt. So she was stunned and out of it. And the shame of it is none of us know.
I mean, that's what makes a head injury. First of all, it's your head, and second, it's that's all what
an invisible injury. Yeah,
that's what makes it different than anything else that you can see and feel and all that stuff. So, so can you talk about that? It was obviously 8 years ago, and I know also you went through a lot and have been through a lot. Can you maybe share any story or something, and then talk about how you're doing now?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think when, like probably a week or two after I was injured, we started to realize that something was not okay with me. We saw local doctors. They told me to rest, cocoon. And I think one of the big things we've learned along the way is it's just that people don't fully understand head injuries. So when someone says to rest, I'm like, okay, I won't go for a run. I won't go to practice. They don't define cognitive rest, where a lot of stimuli or watching movies or things like that trigger you.
Study.
Yeah, trying to study was interesting. But when I was resting, instead of going to hang out with a bunch of friends, two of my best friends came over. This is within the month after I was injured, and we knew I was injured at this point. And we watched Bridesmaids and made cookies for dinner, or cookies for dessert. But when my friends left, they texted me they had taken cookies with them and they found pennies in the cookies, which to this day we can't figure out how I ended up putting pennies into the cookie batter while I was making it. But it just goes to show that there's so much more to head injuries. And I initially, we saw a lot of different doctors. I continued to deteriorate until I couldn't brush my teeth or read without passing out. And my biggest concern in life was always about tearing an ACL in sports. I never thought a sports injury could affect like my biggest goal, being able to brush my teeth. So it's so much more than I think people realize, but we had a great team. I'm lucky that I had parents who advocated for me when I couldn't advocate for myself, and was homeschooled for a while, missed over a year of school. But I graduated on time, went to college. We know now more than we ever thought we would know about head injuries. And I think the craziest thing to me is how much the best brain injury doctors are still learning. So we're still in touch with my doctors at UPMC, and we asked him, if I came to you now, how would you treat me? He's like, I would treat you completely different than I did 8 years ago. And then what I was treated with worked. So I'm doing really well. I'm great. I went to the University of Richmond, had a great 4 years at college, live in the city. But I have not had a day since I was injured without a migraine. So it still definitely impacts my daily life, and I just consider it my new norm. I roll with migraines. much more than I think a lot of people would, but it's kind of what you have to do. So the biggest game changer for me has been Botox for migraines. So I do that every 3 months in the city. I give myself an injection once a month for migraines. And then I wear my ice pack hat pretty regularly now that I'm working from home, given the pandemic, just because it's so soothing. But I'm good.
Yeah, no, you're better than good, Beck. You're amazing, and your family's amazing, and you know, it's not easy to come out and talk about what you went through, and so, you know, I certainly appreciate that, and girls for generations will appreciate that you're standing up and doing it. What makes you want to tell your story? Like we talked about before, with head injuries, it's not easy to, you know, stand up and say, this is what I went through, and you do it, and you do it so well. And, you know, I know a lot of it is because you have just amazing family, loving family, and you had that support. And a lot of people don't. We always talk about how we still hear from people who think that head injuries are some sort of toughness. There's some sort of, you know, well, I had them and it's not that big of a deal. And so what is it that makes you know that it is a big deal? And
no, Rob, can I just interject one thing?
Sure.
Just one of the things we've learned, and Beck had significant injuries to her vestibular system and her ocular system. And one of the things we've learned is that there are many different types of concussions. No concussion is the same. So once we got the proper diagnosis, the therapies went on for a very long time. She did most of them at home. Some of them were done through a computer that was hooked up to her doctors in Pittsburgh. But I think it's really important for people to understand she didn't have headgear on because headgear at the time wasn't allowed. One of the things that we learned at one of our visits out at UPMC is the main doctor, Dr. Mickey Collins, was a huge proponent of headgear for women. And he told us that had she had headgear on, he knew for a fact that her injury would not have been as severe. So I just think it's really important that moms or girls or dads, when they're thinking about headgear, understand that, you know, it's worth taking the risk of putting a helmet on, despite what people think, because look what happens if you don't have it on.
No, and it only takes once. Becca obviously played at a high level for years and years, and we hear so many stories. You know, kids play for 10 years, and it just takes one, you know, and like you said, just accidental ball or stick to the head, and that's all it takes. It's
And back then, you know, one of the biggest immediate concerns for Rebecca was, am I going to play lacrosse again? So we're now how many years out, and we have some perspective. That's not the biggest thing. The biggest thing was she going to be okay?
Yeah, no, and I get it from both. I have my 4 girls too, and you know, getting taken off the field for anything, it's, you know, it means something, and I know you worked hard to get there, and you know, you want to see it through and stay on the field, and like you said, the great things about sports, stay around the girls and camaraderie. But you know, no, you're good, and you really are good. In fact, you're both great. Is there, you know, anything else while we have you here? You want to talk about, or?
I think to answer your question about why have we gotten involved and speak out about it, I mentioned this earlier, and especially in female sports, you always hear about ACLs, and that's an injury where you're going to be out for months, you're going to miss a season. And every single team I was on, whether it was a school team, travel team, you are required to do ACL prevention to ensure that you are the best prepared if you do tear your ACL for a quick recovery, but also to prevent from getting injured in the first place. And pun not intended here, but it's just a no-brainer to me to protect your head. And I definitely took advantage of how much I used my brain. I mean, so much of your body's energy, even to be able to hold a conversation, comes from your brain. And you only get one. It's not like if you break a leg or break your arm, that you can overcompensate, become very good with your left hand. It's the only one you have. And I think it's a topic that people don't fully understand, unfortunately, unless you've experienced it or you've seen someone close to you has experienced it. And I mean, I think it's huge that even while I was still trying to get back to lacrosse, it went from you're not allowed to wear any type of headgear to now you at least have the option to. So I hope that in the future it's mandated, but at least more so for girls to be aware of the options that they have to protect their brain, because it is something that if you injure it, even though I'm doing great, it has changed my life forever. So I think that's why we've gotten involved, and especially once we started getting contacted from people all around the tri-state area, just asking, who do I go see? What do I do now? And at the time here, New Jersey, New York, vestibular and vision therapy weren't really wide known or accepted. So that's how we ended up out at UPMC. But it's so encouraging that now New Jersey and New York both have concussion centers that specialize in those therapies. So a lot is changing. I hope it continues to change. But the reason we've gotten involved is just because we don't want anyone else to have to go through what we've been through.
No, it's I can't say it enough. You're amazing, and whenever I hear somebody take something that obviously was a negative and turn it around and do something so positive, I just admire you and your family so much, and your passion, and for you, Ann, as a mother and being through it. And I know we've talked about this before, making sure that Becca got the best care that you could find at the time. Not everybody has that love and support, and certainly not everybody.
We didn't know. Information is power. We didn't know what we were doing, so we had to keep learning. And now that we know that, it's important to share that with people.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
And sports are fabulous. We still are involved. We do things that are non-contact now, but you don't want these girls should be able to go out and play and be as safe as possible and not worry about this life-changing injury.
Absolutely. That's a lot in the book I talk about for all four of my girls play all sports. I absolutely love it. I love everything that it brings. So do you. And I just can't say enough how thankful I am, and for all the girls now and in the future. And how I'm just you can see I'm just overcome by how much you two are taking what you've been through and turning it around and doing.
Well, thank you for creating headgear. I've tried your headgear on, and it is very comfortable.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that plug. So, but thank you again, both, very much. You're awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. Good luck with everything. Getting
Thanks,
back
Rob.
to New York, and we will definitely be talking to you soon.
Okay,
Sounds
take
good.
care.
Thanks,
All
Rob.
right, thank you. Thanks, Anna, Becca. Take care.
Bye.
All right.